Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my wind-up deck. Now, wind-ups are a pretty fun archetype. It's pretty much like an XYZ spam archetype. There's a few things that they can do that are unique, but really the idea is just to bring out a lot of XYZ and work very quickly because that's how this deck works. So first off, we're going to have 3 wind-up rabbit. Very important for this deck. Very nice that you can kind of protect him and banish himself because the resources in terms of monsters are very important in this deck, so you want to be able to keep him out. So very useful. Wind-up rat, very nice effect, allowing him to special summon something from the graveyard. Again, very, very important, allowing you to start swarming. Wind-up shark, also really, really good because when wind-ups get out, he can get out too, and then he can change his level. So you're guaranteeing yourself to get quick XYZs and have a variety of choices to make. Very, very good card. Tour Guide from the Underworld. In an XYZ kind of spam deck, this is very, very good. Obviously, because it's not semi-limited anymore, you can run 3, which is what I'm doing, and allows you access to really awesome swarming in addition to what you're already doing. Along with that same note, Summoner Monk is also very useful. Can drop some of your spell cards and bring out the wind-ups and do more wind-up combos and keep XYZ spamming. It just goes along with the deck so well. And then one wind-up Magician, obviously limited because it's too good, just allowing you to keep special summoning more wind-ups and make really crazy combos. And then one wind-up Warrior, very useful to increase his level. You know, another way to change up the levels along with wind-up Shark, giving you access to those 5-star, 4-star XYZs very easily. And then one Night Assailant because, you know, we're running 3 tour guides, so we need another card that it's able to use. Always a nice effect even if you can't bring them out. Thunder King Rai-Oh, obviously a great card in a bunch of different decks, very useful for this. Brotherhood of the Firefist Bear, we're running this because we're running Tenki. It's your choice if you want to run this or run 3 of it or run none of it. I find that having 1 is a perfectly good amount. For the spell cards, running 3 MST, very important to get rid of things that get in your way. Wind-up Factory, also very, very important, giving you huge hand advantage on top of all the special summoning you're already doing. This is what makes this deck start to be really crazy. And then 2 fire formations. Obviously, you can run 3 if you want. I find 3 is a little cloggy, but I'm running 2. Again, your choice, and with your choice of how many bear you want to run. Pot of Duality, running 2. Another card you can run 3 of, but I think 3 is a bit too much for this deck. Dark Hole, Book of Moon, pretty much staples. For the traps, a lot of staples, and we have Call the Haunted because you really need a lot of monster resources on top of this, and special summoning helps you out with how some of the cards work. A lot of staple traps. You really need to protect your monsters and not allow your opponent to get like strong presence right away. So having these cards are very, very important. That's why I'm running 2 Mirror Force and 1 Dimensional Prison. Very important. So for the extra deck, obviously the extra deck in this type of deck is very important. There's a lot of choices you can make. So I've looked at this heavily and tried to think of what the best cards I could use in this type of deck. I think Alucard is very, very good for this type of deck. Try to, get rid of your opponent's back row. Zenmaines obviously goes along with the wind-up archetype and also a really good card overall. Leviathan Dragon giving you access to a stronger level 3. Leviair giving you access to special summoning, which can be useful for how some of the Zenmaines, or not Zenmaines, some of the wind-ups work. M-X-Saber Invoker, situationally useful in order to summon wind-up warrior. Gagaga Cowboy, always useful. Emeral, very interesting in this deck. I find that it's very good to be able to bring back your cards to the deck because of how a bunch of the wind-ups work, and especially because of how Wind-Up Factory works. Diamond Dire Wolf can be very useful in this deck, obviously, because you have, some Beast Warriors and some Beasts. Maestroke, always a great 4-star. Abyss Dweller, you have water monsters, so that can be useful along with its effect. It's always really good in a bunch of different decks. Photon, again, another useful card. For the 5 stars, a lot of choices, but some of the best ones that I picked out, Tiras, Volcasaurus, and Zenmaioh, very, very useful. Especially cards like Zenmaioh and Alucard, because when you're doing a lot of XYZ swarming, and you can get rid of your opponent's back row, it really messes with them because you'll have a lot of powerful monsters out quick, and you'll just be able to run through them. And then, obviously, with 5 stars, you want to have Gaia Dragon, always a useful card to have. With the piercing battle damage and the ability to kind of have an XYZ monster on top of ones that you've already used their materials from. So for the side decks in my videos are just recommended cards that can also work with the deck. It isn't necessarily a side deck for matches. So Cyber Dragon is an interesting choice in this deck, giving you access to something if you don't have good field presence, and in combination with some of the other cards can bring out nice XYZs. Wind Up Honeybee is a really interesting one, allowing you to special summon windups. It can give you access to some stuff, but currently not a thing I want to do. Wind Up Hunter has a really interesting effect. So the thing is, if you already have good presence, you can use this card to kind of wreck your opponent's hand, which is interesting. But since the effect can only be used once, it's kind of choicey. I don't know if I really want to use it. Wind Up Juggler is an interesting beater that you can use. Again, not really my kind of idea behind what I'm doing in this deck, but if you want something like this that can have an interesting effect on top of it. Tragodia is a really interesting card to use in this deck. You have access to a few different levels and level changing cards, and if you lose your low attack monsters early on, this could be useful to get out. And then Tempo, there's a lot of other XYZs that you can use in this deck, so this is an example of one. Tempo can be really good, but it just didn't make the cut for the XYZs I wanted. Adria, another 5-star that can be really useful. Shark Fortress obviously can be a really great card when you really get your opponent's back row down. Acid Golem, really interesting choice, not what I'm running. Can be really good with skill drain, but again, not my choice to put in this deck. It was very tough to pick out the XYZs that I wanted. Giga Brilliant, another one that can be useful, and Utopia, another one that's just a strong beater. So some of the other spell cards you could use: Instant Fusion, giving you access to some XYZs. Upstart Goblin, obviously thinning your deck a bit. Pot of Dichotomy, I think it's pronounced. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to put this in my deck. It can be useful kind of in the same lines of Emeral, but it's situational. I didn't really want to have it in this deck, and not being able to conduct your battle phase is really annoying. And then Mind Control with all the XYZ you're doing, this can be a very useful card. So that's my wind-up deck. Again, the side deck really, there weren't a lot of choices I had to make in this deck. It's pretty much staple what you want to put in this deck. The builds are pretty similar. It's just the extra deck where it really comes down on what you want to use. But I'm having a lot of fun with this deck. A lot of swarming potential. It could be very fast with the right hand combination, so really cool. But if you guys have your own wind-up decks, you could post below. Let me know in the comments. Make suggestions for cards that you use in your decks, or what cards you want to see in my deck. If you like this video, you can subscribe or hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to see other decks from me, you can check the playlists that are in the description. One of them has a list of all the decks I've made so far. Another one has a list of all the decks I've made for this current ban list. But if you want to, contact me, all that stuff is in the description as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter, talk to me on Skype, anything like that. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.